Alacrity Healing Tempest is a really strong and underrated healer. It is extremely flexible and has a lot of healing. Additionally, it's also a capable tank. So in this video I will explain everything you need to know about this build. I'm Summer and let's jump right in. So let's start with the gear. So with the gear you want to run full Harrier on your armor, and you will want to run Superior Rune of the Monk for the maximum healing and boon duration. And then it gets a bit complicated. For the trinkets you will want to run a mixture between Magi's, Givers and Harrier, just because you will want to increase your toughness so that you can tank. Most bosses are toughness based, therefore you get tank by having higher toughness than the other party members. If you don't want to tank, you have to lower this and go for full Harrier. And the Magi's is because you want to get as much healing power as you can get. But in general, I would recommend to go for, let's say, Givers, full Giver, except 2 rings that are Magi's. Yeah, so that's, let's say, the optimal setup if you want to tank. If you feel like you need more toughness, of course you can go higher with your stats. For Relic, I would always go for Relic of Caracosa because it's just the best healing option. If you don't have the Soto expansion, because you need that for this Relic, you can go for Monk Relic because it's a little bit less healing, but it's still good. And if you need more condition cleanses, you can go for Trooper Relic, for example. But there are a lot of options for Relic, but Caracosa is, let's say, the optimal one. It works just on your allies, not on you. So if you blast a field that is not only from you or from allies, it doesn't matter. If you blast it, it will heal allies, and it's actually a quite substantial amount. So it's over 2k with your outgoing healing modifiers. So it's really strong. And it has no internal cooldown. So for weapons you will want to run Dagger and Warhorn. There is also the possibility to run Staff, but in most cases Staff is worse because you have to be aware of your position way more, because your radii are a lot smaller and you have a lot more issues keeping up Might, Fury, and it's also not, let's say, that easy to cut it and tank with it, but it has the option to range heal, which you lack with Dagger Warhorn, and also has some built-in stability and revive potential. So both are valid, but I would say in most encounters I would go for Dagger Warhorn just because it's way stronger if you can stack with your group. So you will want to run, of course, Transference Schützel for more outgoing healing, and you will want to run Paralyzation because it increases your breakbar damage by quite a lot. So that's it for the gear. And for your consumables, you will want to run Fruit Salad with Mint Garnish, of course, for more healing power. If you're on a budget, you can also use Delicious Rice Balls. And for utility, the best option is, of course, Bountiful Maintenance Oils. Yes, they are quite expensive, but they are by far the best option. Now to the traits. So you will want to run, of course, Tempest and Water. Those are the set trait lines. So let's start with those two. So in Tempest, if you are on Dagger Warhorn like I am, you will want to run Latent Stamina. It's a really nice vigor boost to your allies when you go to water, and you want to dip into water quite often. And also you get some endurance to your allies, which is really nice because that's a very rare thing you can do, and it's really strong in encounters where dodging is necessary. Then you get some base concentration increase and some protection from your overloads, and your protection is also stronger, which is also a unique thing to this build. So you have almost 40% incoming damage reduction. And then you take this because your auras will count vigor and regen, and therefore you are almost, let's say, single-handedly capping your boons with this. And then, of course, lose the singularity because you want to apply Alacrity as this build. And this works while you channel your overload. Be aware that this is also a stronger burst of Alacrity when you finish the overload. So you always try to not cancel your overload, which not only means that you are not allowed to use other skills while you do that, if they're not instant, but you will also not want to dodge and stuff. So be aware that you have to fully cast it, and therefore if the boss is about to do an attack you have to dodge, you should wait with start to cast it. And in water, you will get some Soothing Mist buff for you and your allies in your party when you attune to water, and it stays for 10 seconds, and it's a really strong heal. It's let's say a second region you apply to your party members, therefore you have a lot of sustained healing passively with region, and this really strong. Then you get some really nice burst heal when you go into water, and your outgoing healing effectiveness and your water skills are increased. So the water skill recharge is decreased rather. So then you have stop, drop and roll, just some condition cleanse on yourself and your party. Quite nice on fights where you need this, and your, let's say, chill is also a really strong condition against this build because you have so many skills and all of them will recharge slower with chill. Then you have one condi cleanse when you swap into water, really good. And that's the big one. You gain vitality, that's nice, but you have 100% increased Soothing Mist effectiveness, which is really important because now it's stronger than regen for the most part. You see 10-second regen, 3k heal, and Soothing Mist 4.5 almost. And that's not including the outgoing healing effectiveness. So you have a lot of healing per second. So for the last trait line, you can run Arcane, Earth, Air, or Fire. So you're extremely flexible. You can run all of those trait lines. Let me quickly go over why you would choose some of them. So Fire is the best condition cleansed trait line. It's really crazy how much condis you cleanse, but it's not necessary for almost any encounter. Therefore, if you feel like you need it, go for it, but in most cases it's not necessary because you have enough cleanse on this build either as well. Air just increases your CC. So if you know your party lacks CC or you really need some big amount of CC, you go for Air. And the last trait line you could also go for is Earth, which is giving some more stability. Let's say you can provide some really nice stability with Earth, but in most cases it's not needed. So I would personally always go for Arcane if you don't know if the other trait lines are really necessary, because Arcane is just the most flexible one by itself. So what does Arcane do? Arcane grants some might, okay, not that important. Then when you change attunement, you will give a boon to your allies. And this is actually crazy because it's really strong with your boon duration. You get 10 seconds of protection, 16 seconds of swiftness, and you will dip into all of the elements quite a lot. So therefore you apply a lot of boons just by this minor trait. Then you get some more concentration and your recharge is reduced from your weapon swapping or your, let's say, element swapping. So that's really strong. And then you get some healing from swapping attunements. That's nice, especially when you're tanks. You sometimes need some healing for yourself. Really good. Then, of course, that's a really strong trait. Whenever you begin reviving a downed ally by pressing F or whatever keybind you have to do this, you will get an aura. And that's quite nice, but the important part here is that you get, let's say, to cast Geise. It's a Water Thrill skill 3 on staff. And this will be enhanced because it's now also reviving downed allies. And that's really strong. It's 7% per pulse and you have 4 pulses. And it's also really, really strong heal. So always try to press F if someone goes down, especially on this build, of course. So you have a lot of, let's say, resurrection power. And of course, if you go the staff variant, this is really good because you have 2 guises now from pressing F and from your free skill in water. So, but on this build, it's still very strong. And then lastly, you have Evasive Arcana. So every time you dodge, on a 10-second cooldown per element, you do some attack with this. The important part here is the water one is a really nice dodge, a really nice cleanse and heal. So you should always go for water if you need more healing. And if you have a, let's say a water field out or some really nice field that you want to blast in, you can dodge in water, in earth, I mean. So if you, it's a blast finisher there. So it's important to know that this will also heal because of the Caracosa relic, but not you, just your allies in your party. Because you combo a blast finisher and then it heals. So it's also worth mentioning that this counts the element when you finish your dodge. So it's not when you start in fire and you swap to water, you will get the water dodge, even though you started the dodge in fire. It's important to note. And it works only in combat. So that's it so far for the traits. So now to the important skills. I won't go over every skill because Elementalist has quite a lot. So in fire, the most important ones are your force skill, the heat sink. It will spread boons, the aggressive ones. It's really important to always press that on cooldown. It's really strong. Then you have a fire field that's slowly increasing. So if you want to combo in it, it's really good. And then here's a short evade if you need it. But the most important skill is your overload, because it will grant might and some protection. And all your overloads are stun breaks, so if you need stun breaks for whatever reason, you can use them. Be aware that the cooldown of your element change will increase when you overload. So if you overload, it will be on a longer cooldown than normally swapping to fire back. Then you have air. You have a blast finisher in air with 2 skill after shot delay. You have a nice stun when you transmute your shocking aura. Then you have some nice CC on the force skill. And of course the strong overload if you really need it. But for the most part, you would not use it. Then in earth, you have some nice evade again and an emop. Then of course very strong skill, some blast finisher, protection application, and this is also extending the duration of all boons by 3 seconds, so it's extremely strong. And this skill is also worth using sometimes because it blocks missiles of enemies, so you can, let's say, deflect projectiles with this. And then your overload is really important because it's a blast finisher as well, so it can heal and also gives you heavy stability and of course protection for your team. But the most important element, like I said, is water, because you get the Soothing Mist buff for you and your allies. And this heals also. It's quite a lot of healing there too. You should always use it if you really feel like you need some more healing, but in most cases it's not needed. Then you have your 3 skill, which is actually really interesting. It's an ice field and instantly blasts itself. So it's a heal by itself with Caracosa relic. And then you have this skill. It's a really low CC, but it's also some nice healing. And you have your 5 skill, which is a water field, but it's traveling away from you. So be aware that you have to, if you want to blast in it, you have to move to it. And it's some nice pulse healing. And then of course, if you really need a lot of healing, you can press this overload. But for the most part, you want to, let's say, don't do this because you want to swap into water as often as you can to just get the Soothing Mist buff back up, and of course Cleansing Wave and Healing Ripple, because all of them work when swapping into water. So you don't want a longer cooldown on your water swap. But if you really need some healing, this one heals per pulse and removes conditions, but will also have a really strong final heal. So that's it for the weapon skills. I won't go over the staff skills here. Then we have some really strong heal on Wash the Pain Away. You should always run this. It's an incredibly strong heal. It increases on radius but decreases in healing strength per pulse, and also removes a condition on the final cleanse, and will also in the next balance patch even remove more conditions. Then you want to run Glyph of Elementals. always use the water one because it heals. If you really need more CC, you can also run the air one. But if you, let's say, cast the water one, you get a flip skill, and if you use this, you see it's 8k almost, and without going healing modifiers, it's 10k or something. It's incredible how strong this burst heal is. It's around the elemental, so you should always just try to be near your elemental if you cast this, because if you, let's say, if your allies are way, let's say, on the other side of the room, it won't heal them at all. So be aware of that. For your utility skills, that's one of the strengths of this build. You're completely free. You can run any utility skill you have on your elementalist setup because you don't need anything to, let's say, provide alacrity or all your boons you need. So what are possible utility skills that are worth using? So you can run Feel a Burn if you don't have anything better to run, because it will just give some might and fury, which is always nice, even though you don't need it. You know, you have enough uptime anyway. Then you can run, of course, Eye of the Storm. Really good. It will give some super speed, is a stun break, and for you and your allies, that's really important. And it gives some stability. It's only one stack, but if you know you need only one stack, for example, Sloth of Fear or something, you can use this skill. It's really strong. Then you have your Aegis application on your Aftershock and some protection and magnetic aura, and it's a blast finisher, so it's always a really strong skill. I would recommend to run this most of the time because it's just so strong, it's so overloaded what it does. And by blasting you can also heal. Then of course you can also run Earth Shield if you really need an invulnerability for whatever reason. You can run this. Of course, Lightning Flash as a teleport is really strong. And then you have your Signet of Water, which also revives allies on cast in the area, and also some heavy heal. Really good. And then you can, of course, run Renewal Glyph. It's depending on the element you are in, it will have a different effect. But most importantly, it's a revive, a ranged revive. And you can even revive 3 people when you're in Earth, or revive 1 fully when you're in water, so really strong. And if you want some more breakbar damage, you can go Arcane Wave, because it's a let's say a blast finisher that dazes, so it will heal and is a CC skill. So I would say for the most part these 3 skills are really strong, and if you run those, you have a really high coverage of utility. You can go any, if you know, for example, you don't have stability, you can go for this, it's more healing. And if you need some, for example, if you know your party is not that good, you can get some panic revive skill with this. So you're really flexible. So that's it so far for the, let's say, skills you should run. Let's quickly go over what ways you have to heal, because that's really important to know. You have so many skills, you should know how to burst heal and how to sustain heal. So your sustain healing comes from Soothing Myth and Regeneration application, and that's quite a lot of healing per second that you get there. So be aware of that. Then your burst heal is of course your healing skill for you and your allies, and like I said, the Glyph of Elementals flip over skill. And of course, depending on your utility skills, this is also a burst heal. And don't forget, you have Evasive Arcana when you run Arcane, so you have a burst heal when you dodge in combat around you. And of course, blast finishers are all healing for your party, that is, because you run Karakosa Relic. So this is a blast finisher, and this is a blast finisher, and this skill is a blast finisher, as well as, of course, Overlord Earth after finishing it. And of course, Aftershock and Arcane Wave, like I said before. So you have quite a lot of blast finisher, as well, of course, I forgot, the Evasive Arcana in Earth. So you get one more blast finisher. So you have quite a lot of blast finishers, and all of them are healing skills, so to say, because of the Karakosa Relic. They don't have an internal cooldown. So that's it for the burst healing. And now to the, let's say, somewhat rotation you have. Because you're an elementalist, you should swap your attunements to get the most of your elements. And of course you want to get all the boons from this, and of course from the water traits as well. So try to stick to this, but of course swap it up if you need some healing or whatever. You should always be flexible in what you do. It's not like you want to do it a rotation to do the damage. It's more like you want to do the rotation to upkeep the boons as best as you can. And if you feel like you need some healing or you need some utility, whatever, you should switch it up. It's not rigid in that sense. Just be aware that you have to somewhat do some overloads after some time, because you need to apply Alacrity. That's the most important one. So the typical rotation would start with overload fire. Then when you have it, feel the burn and use heat sink. And then you do the typical air 2, water 3, and swap to earth and do the sand scroll. So that's the typical rotations. We'll always go fire, air, water, and then in earth. And then you stay for a short time into earth and do your overload earth. And then when you are done with this, you swap back into air, water, and fire. So we'll always go in the different. You swap, so to say, always from fire overload to earth overload, and always between those two big overloads, you go into air and water just to dip out the boons and the blast finishes from them. So it's really easy actually to remember, because it's always like fire, and then let's say the filler attunements, earth of water, and then into the big attunements of so the filler attunements of air and water, and then in earth. And then you stay in earth until you get the overload and switch back to air, water, and go back to fire, where you can then wait for the overload. So it's really easy. I will quickly showcase what you can do. So in water, you also, of course, if you need it, you can also use the Cone of Cold, which is the healing skill on your 2. So you have a lot of healing. So the typical rotation would look something like this. And it's also your typical start, so to say, in so, and then you can do whatever, and then you do the overload earth. And you can see how easy it is to upkeep the boons. I have really quite a lot of boons permanently, and I did not even use my utility skills to do this. So it's really easy. Actually, the rotation, it's only a few buttons, and you upkeep all the boons. That is really good. So it's a really fun build. It's fast-paced. You have a lot of healing. You have a lot of boon output. I hope you enjoyed as much as I do. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next video.